Hi everybody, my name is Catherine. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be deep diving into Dune by Frank Herbert. This is part of a series where I'm going over the 100 greatest books of all time, and I'm basically breaking them down. So this is going to be my book analysis on Dune, what I think the core message is. So make sure that you subscribe if that's something that you're interested in. Before I deep dive into my analysis of the story, I'm going to give you a little bit of a premise about what the story is about. So make sure that if you want to read the book or watch the movie and you haven't done so already, that you scroll off or you log off of this video, because I am going to be sharing some spoilers. So Dune follows this guy named Paul Atreides. He's the son of Duke Leto. And basically, they're on this planet called Caladan, and they're moving to this planet called Arrakis. And the whole reason for the move is that Arrakis has something called spice, which is very expensive, and it's used for intergalactic space travel. So it's something that they have like in the sand, it's buried in the sand, and they mine this thing called spice, and it's worth a lot of money. So that's basically why they're moving there, is to gain that money and that power and to rule over Arrakis. But because there's so much money involved, they kind of clash with this other group of people called the Harkonnens. And basically, the Duke Leto is killed. His son escapes with his mother and finds refuge among the Fremen. And the Fremen are these people that are native to Arrakis. So they know the ways of the desert, and they've been long awaiting this Messiah to come. And Paul Atreides basically fits all of the signs, right? So the Fremen really believe that he is the prophet, he is the Messiah. As we watch the story unfold, Paul kind of forms this alliance with the Fremen and tries to gain back power of Arrakis as the new Duke of Arrakis, since his father's dead. So that's basically the premise of the story, and now I'm going to deep dive a little bit more into what I think the author was trying to portray with this story. This is something that I thought about a lot, and I was like, what is the core message of Dune? And at first I thought it was just a religious book. I felt like myself, I was a Fremen. I was reading the book and I was like, oh my god, he's the one, this is a sign. And that's kind of like what I got out of the book. I thought that it was a really good religious book. And then I was talking with my husband and he was like, Paul Atreides isn't the Messiah. Like, I think he's leaning into the prophecy for power. And until he said that, I didn't really clue into that aspect of the book. So that was the first interesting thing. And then a lot of people online talk about how you could really relate the Fremen people to the Muslim culture and how there's a lot of similarities, even with the mining of spice. And then you look at like the oil industry and the things that we do in Middle Eastern countries. I was even looking at how the Harkonnens, they're described as like these big fat white guys basically, and I was thinking about them, and then I was looking at the Fremen. I could kind of see the duality between the two, how maybe somebody from a third world country could look at someone from North America and see them as like this big fat blob, you know. And I'm not saying that to be like to talk down on anything. I'm a white woman myself, but I thought maybe that there was something to do with that, like maybe like the power struggle. I wasn't quite sure. I was trying to really figure out what Frank Herbert was trying to portray with this novel. Like, what was he trying to tell us? But as I was reading the novel, I was getting more and more convinced that Dune is a coming of age book. It's about becoming aware and awakening to the different power structures within our society, things like politics and religion. And if you really think about it, myself, like I think back and I can totally see where I started coming to those realizations. We all kind of have that. There's this saying that they say that kids usually are more liberal because they want to help everybody, but then as you get older, you usually become a conservative because you start seeing things for what they are, and you start seeing the motives behind people, and then you become like aware of it. And I think that maybe that's what Frank Herbert was trying to portray. He has a lot of quotes inside the story that really make you wonder if he's just trying to instill that seed in your mind of like, hey, pay attention to the other motives of other people. Pay attention to things like politics and religion, because they can all affect you. And oftentimes we think like, oh, it's just religion or it's just politics. But I think he was just really trying to show all the different elements that are going on in your everyday life that are influencing your everyday decisions. For example, there's this quote, "Without change, something sleeps inside us and seldom awakens. The sleeper must awaken." I find this quote so powerful. I feel like he's saying, like, wake up, like, look around you, right? Look at the different things, the different moving parts. Everything is kind of interlocked, and sometimes you might think that something is very pure and doesn't have ill intention, but when you peel back the layers, you see that there's all these different motives and these different things, like when they say follow the money, you know, like it's just really interesting. And Paul Atreides is this 15-year-old, and even Frank Herbert said that he wanted Paul Atreides to be portrayed as this character who was honorable and intelligent and compassionate. He didn't portray Paul Atreides as this manipulative character. He wanted him to be very much likable, because so many of us are going to experience that same thing that he's going through, where you have certain vices and certain things that are coming into your life and are affecting you. Even the author himself, he said that Paul Atreides was meant to be this likable character. He was meant to be honorable and intelligent and all of these things to make the reader really like him, to show that even the best of us are going to succumb to certain things. Another quote that I really liked is, "The person who experiences greatness must have a feeling for the myth he is in." I'm going to say that again. The person who experiences greatness must have a feeling for the myth he is in. He must reflect what is projected upon him. That ties into the same concept that I was just saying of being aware of the different key players that are happening all around you. And I think that Frank Herbert was honestly trying to say this message in his book, because he even used the third person omniscient throughout the novel, and a lot of people often critique it, because basically what this is that each character, as you're reading them, you see their inner thoughts. For example, in this passage here, it says, "Everything in the room was immediate and pressing against her senses. My son lives." Paul looked at his mother. She told the truth. He wanted to get away alone and think this experience through, but knew he could not leave until he was dismissed. So in just those few sentences, you're getting the perspective of two different characters. When we say everything in the room was immediate and pressing against her senses, my son lives, that is the inner thoughts of Jessica, the mother. And then when he says she told the truth, those are the inner thoughts of Paul. So we're constantly bouncing from head to head, and we're really getting an in-depth understanding of what is going on inside. What are the feelings that are kind of boiling under the surface, which is something that you can't get if it's not in the third person omniscient like this. And I think that Frank Herbert did this on purpose to show us the different motives, so that we would really understand what each character was after and be able to really see the underlying themes and the underlying desires of each character. So that's basically what I think of the story. I think that it's a coming of age novel that is showing us the reality of awakening and coming to the realization that not everything is just fine and dandy the way we think it is when we're kids. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, where, you know, one day you just realized, oh my God, politics are not what I thought they were, or religion wasn't what I thought it was, or, you know, Santa Claus isn't real, whatever it is. We kind of go through these moments of realization. And I think that he did a really good job in this book doing exactly that. And I think the most interesting part about all of this is the fact that when I was reading Dune, I didn't even realize, I didn't even see all these underlying themes. And I was like completely convinced that this was just a religious book. And I think that that is the nail on the head with this book, because when I'm an author, I want to do exactly that. I want to have a book that can be read for mere entertainment, but can also have such a profound message for those who want to see it. And that's exactly what he did here. It was honestly such a good read. The next book that I'm going to be deep diving into is called The Secret Garden. So make sure that you stick around if you want to learn more about that book. I'd love to hear what you think the core message of the book is, so please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you around.